Who's in charge here?
I am. This is our wedding. We have valid permits.
I got noise complaints. Shut it down.
We're in compliance. Permits are valid until 10 p.m.
I don't care. Music stops now.
This is inappropriate.
Turn around now.
The groom standing before him in an $18,000 custom tuxedo was not just any guest. He was Special Agent Rafael Cortez of the DEA, the lead undercover operative who had dismantled 3 major fentanyl trafficking networks across the Midwest. Rafael had personally put away cartel lieutenants, corrupt port officials, and dirty chemists. He knew federal narcotics law better than most judges. Seated only 35 feet away sat 2 federal magistrates, the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District, 11 assistant prosecutors, and 4 senior DEA supervisors, all watching. What Officer Vance did next would cost him his badge, his pension, and eventually his freedom. It would force the county to pay $17.4 million in damages, and every single second was being recorded from multiple angles. Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever been humiliated by someone wearing a badge who thought they were above the law? Drop your answer in the comments, but Officer Vance had absolutely no idea who he was about to put hands on. Rafael Cortez was 34 years old. He served as a special agent with the Drug Enforcement Administration's Chicago Field Division. That meant he ran long-term undercover operations, coordinated multi-agency task forces, and authored affidavits for Title III wiretaps. He graduated from the University of Michigan Law School in the top 4% of his class. Before the DEA, he spent 5 years as an assistant U.S. attorney prosecuting narcotics conspiracies. He became one of the youngest agents ever to lead a Class I OCDETF investigation in the Great Lakes region. His conviction rate stood at 91%. He had personally been responsible for seizing over $87 million in drug proceeds and 4.2 tons of fentanyl precursors. What makes Rafael's story hit even harder is his background. Born in 1991 to Puerto Rican parents in a working-class neighborhood on Chicago's west side, he grew up watching friends fall to the very drugs he now fights. His mother cleaned offices at night, his father drove a delivery truck. Rafael was the first in his family to finish college on full scholarship. He balanced law school with raising his younger sister after their parents passed. He met Alina Morales, his bride-to-be, during a joint DEA-ATF operation briefing. She was a forensic accountant. Their relationship grew from shared late-night case reviews into deep love. This wedding was supposed to be the pinnacle of everything Rafael had fought for, proof that hard work and integrity could win. 180 guests filled the elegant outdoor pavilion at Willowmere Estate in suburban Naperville, Illinois. Among them were federal judges who had signed his search warrants, prosecutors he had testified for, and fellow agents who had covered him in dangerous raids. On that clear Saturday evening in late June 2022, Rafael wasn't thinking about wiretap extensions or CI debriefs. He was thinking about vows, about forever with Alina. He had no clue a single neighbor's exaggerated, loud music call at 6:50 p.m. would turn his wedding into a federal civil rights nightmare. Now let's meet the other side. Officer Travis Vance was 46 years old and had worn the badge with the Naperville Police Department for 19 years. His personnel file should have ended his career a decade earlier. 9 formal complaints had been filed against him, each one quietly closed by internal affairs with little to no follow-up. Let's look at just a few. In 2017, Vance was accused of using excessive force on a black college student during a jaywalking stop. The young man suffered a dislocated shoulder, complaint marked unfounded. In 2019, he threatened a Latino restaurant owner with constant patrols if the owner didn't stop complaining about parking enforcement. Dismissed for insufficient evidence. In 2020, Vance detained a 72-year-old Asian woman for suspicious loitering while she fed birds in a public park. She was handcuffed for 28 minutes. Case resolved administratively. In 2021, he broke up a legally permitted backyard quinceañera, issuing citations without checking permits. The family withdrew their complaint after conversations with supervisors. Do you see the pattern here? Let me know in the comments if you've witnessed similar repeated complaints being buried in your own town. Vance rarely called for backup. He prided himself on handling everything his way. He skipped cultural sensitivity training twice. Bodycam footage was often malfunctioning during controversial stops. When the noise complaint came in that Saturday, Vance didn't see a chance to de-escalate. He saw an opportunity to show who was in charge. This time he rolled up on the wrong event. The scene was set at 6:45 p.m. on Saturday, June 25, 2022, Willowmere Estate, Naperville, Illinois. Golden hour light filtered through 150-year-old willow trees. 180 white chairs lined the aisle. White roses and eucalyptus hung from the hoopah. A string trio played softly, volume checked and well under the 65 decibel limit. Inside the groom's tent, Rafael adjusted his cufflinks. His best man, DEA Agent Luis Navarro, cracked a joke. 4 groomsmen laughed. Wedding planner Priya Sharma reviewed the timeline. Outside, Alina waited with her bridesmaids glowing. The ceremony would begin in 12 minutes, then Officer Vance arrived. He ignored the security table. He marched straight past the event staff. Priya hurried over with a thick folder. "Officer, we have every permit, noise variance, occupancy, alcohol, fire inspection. May I show you?" Vance didn't look. "I need whoever's running this party." Now he pushed through guests and headed for the groom's tent. If stories exposing abuse of power matter to you, hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Officer Vance didn't knock, he didn't announce himself. He simply ripped back the canvas flap of the groom's tent and stepped inside like he owned the place. Raphael turned slowly, still calm, still in control. This was supposed to be the happiest moment of his life. He spoke first, voice steady and professional. "Officer, I'm the groom. This is a fully permitted private wedding. We have all city approvals. Is there a problem?" Vance sized him up, eyes narrowing. "Yeah, there's a problem. Multiple noise complaints. Music's too loud. You're shutting this down right now." Priya Sharma, the wedding planner, stepped forward quickly, holding the thick leather binder. "Officer, here are the documents. Noise variance until 11 p.m., signed by the city clerk. Decibel readings taken at 6:30 p.m., 63 dB, well under limit. Outdoor event permit, fire clearance, alcohol license, everything is current." Vance didn't even glance at the pages. "I don't care about your paperwork. I got calls. People are complaining. Music stops or I start writing tickets and clearing people out." Raphael took a slow breath. "Those permits are legally binding. You're welcome to call the city's non-emergency line or the event desk to confirm. We have 180 guests here. The ceremony begins in 10 minutes. Our sound levels are compliant with every ordinance." Vance stepped closer, voice dropping into a low growl. "You arguing with me?" "No, sir. I'm explaining that we are in full compliance with city code. I'm a federal agent. I know how to read and follow legal documents." The moment the word agent left Raphael's mouth, Vance's face twisted. "Federal agent, huh?" He let out a short, bitter laugh. "So you think you're above the law, think you can throw around titles and do whatever you want?" Raphael's best man, DEA Agent Luis Navarro, moved forward. "Officer, please, this is his wedding day. Just look at the permits. Everything checks out." Vance pointed sharply at Luis. "You stay out of this or you're next." He turned back to Raphael. "Here's how this works. You got 2 choices. Kill the music and wrap this up early, or I shut the whole thing down and start arresting people for disorderly conduct." Raphael kept his tone even. "I'd like to speak with your supervisor, please." That request lit the fuse. "I don't need a supervisor," Vance snapped. "I'm the officer on scene. I'm giving you a direct, lawful order. Shut it down now." Raphael met his eyes. "That order is not lawful. We have valid permits. You are attempting to interfere with a permitted private event. I'm going to need your name and badge number." Vance's neck flushed red. "You want my badge number? How about this instead?" He lunged forward and grabbed Raphael's left forearm hard, twisting it behind his back. The groomsmen shouted in shock. Alina, who had just stepped closer to the tent entrance, froze, her veil catching the golden light as she watched her fiancé being forced into position. "You're under arrest," Vance barked. "Obstruction of justice, disorderly conduct, resisting." The metal cuffs clicked shut around Raphael's wrists, pinching the crisp white shirt sleeves and scraping against the custom cufflinks Alina had given him that morning. The fabric tore slightly at the shoulder seam from the rough handling. Raphael spoke clearly, voice still controlled but firm. "Officer, I am Special Agent Rafael Cortez, United States Drug Enforcement Administration. You are making a serious mistake. Remove these cuffs immediately." Vance leaned in close. "Yeah, and I'm the mayor. Turn around. Stop resisting. Type justice in the comments right now if you think this officer just crossed a very dangerous line." All 4 groomsmen already had their phones out. They were recording from different angles. Priya ran outside screaming for security. Alina rushed forward, tears already forming. "That's my fiancé. He's a federal agent. You can't do this." By now the commotion had spread. Guests started standing. Whispers turned into shouts. These were not random people. They were federal judges, U.S. attorneys, DEA supervisors, prosecutors, people who lived and breathed law enforcement and civil rights every single day. U.S. District Judge Marisol Reyes pushed through the crowd first. She was scheduled to officiate the ceremony in less than 10 minutes. "Officer Vance," she said, voice like steel, "I am United States District Judge Marisol Reyes. You will remove those handcuffs from Agent Cortez right now. He is a federal law enforcement officer." Vance tried to justify himself. "He was obstructing a lawful police action." "There is no lawful action here," Judge Reyes cut in. "This is a permitted wedding. You were shown the documents. You refused to look at them. You just placed a DEA agent in handcuffs on his wedding day in front of 180 witnesses, many of whom are federal officials." Then came Supervisory Special Agent Carla Ortiz, Raphael's direct supervisor at the Chicago Field Division. She stepped forward, badge already out. Officer Vance, I am Supervisory Special Agent Ortiz, DEA. Uncuff my agent immediately. That is a direct order from a federal supervisor. Vance looked around. He saw the black robes. The badges, the suits, the phone still recording. The color slowly drained from his face. For the first time, he realized the gravity of what he had just done. He fumbled with the keys and finally removed the cuffs, but the damage was irreversible. Raphael's wrists were bright red, already bruising. His left shoulder seam was ripped. His shirt was wrinkled and stained from being twisted. Alina was crying openly now, holding his hand. His mother, sitting in the front row, was shaking, hands covering her mouth. The string trio had stopped playing. The entire pavilion was silent except for the low murmur of stunned guests. Judge Reyes addressed the crowd loud enough for everyone to hear. In 29 years on the federal bench, I have never witnessed such a blatant and reckless abuse of authority. Assistant U.S. Attorney Daniel Kim, who had prosecuted cases alongside Raphael, shook his head. He didn't even glance at the permits, not once. He made up his mind before he walked into that tent. Groomsman DEA Agent Luis Navarro, still filming, spoke directly to the camera. He was told multiple times, "I'm DEA," he laughed. He put the cuffs on anyway. Let me pause here for a second. What Officer Vance did wasn't just rude, it was illegal. Police cannot arrest someone without probable cause. Possessing valid event permits is not a crime. Asking for a badge number is not resisting. Being a Latino federal agent on your wedding day is not grounds for detention. But here's what makes this moment catastrophic for Vance. 5 phones were rolling. The venue had 6 high-definition security cameras. 180 witnesses, most of them trained legal professionals, saw everything. Officer Vance had just created more evidence against himself than most defendants leave behind in a lifetime. Supervisory Agent Ortiz pulled out her phone and called the DEA's Office of Professional Responsibility. Federal investigators were already being mobilized. This was no longer a local noise complaint. This was now a federal civil rights investigation. Officer Vance stood there, keys still in hand, staring at the ground. The handcuffs dangled from his belt like a confession. Raphael rubbed his wrists, the red welts already forming. Alina wrapped her arms around him, sobbing quietly into his shoulder. The torn tuxedo sleeve hung loose. The $18,000 fabric ruined in seconds. Supervisory Agent Carla Ortiz took charge. Officer Vance, you are relieved of any further involvement at this scene. Step back to your patrol car and wait. Federal agents are en route. Vance opened his mouth to argue, but Judge Reyes shut it down with one look. Do not speak, do not touch anything else. This is now a federal matter. Within minutes, Naperville PD backup arrived, but not to support Vance. 2 sergeants from Internal Affairs stepped out of their unmarked cars. They immediately separated Vance, walked him to the cruiser, and had him sit in the back seat like a suspect. One sergeant collected his body cam, which of course had been turned off by accident, and his notes. Meanwhile, DEA agents began arriving. First came Special Agent Marcus Hale, Raphael's partner on the last big case. Then 2 more from the Office of Professional Responsibility. They started interviewing witnesses right there under the willow trees, while the wedding guests still sat in stunned silence. The investigators reviewed the 5 phone videos on the spot. They called the Naperville city clerk, permits confirmed 100% valid. They used a decibel meter app, 63 dB, perfectly legal. They pulled the original complaint log. Only one anonymous call, not multiple. The caller had described a loud Mexican party. The racial undertone was unmistakable. Vance's story crumbled instantly. He claimed multiple noise complaints. Truth, 1 call. He claimed obstruction. Truth, Raphael showed permits, identified himself, asked for a supervisor. He claimed lawful order. Truth, no legal basis existed to shut down a permitted event. While this unfolded, several guests approached Raphael and Alina. Federal judges hugged Alina. Prosecutors promised to testify. One assistant U.S. attorney said quietly, "I've never been prouder to know you, Raphael. We've got your back." But the wedding was over. The string trio had packed up. The caterers stood frozen with trays of untouched hors d'oeuvres. The cake, 4 tiers of lemon and guava, sat untouched under its glass dome. Alina's mother clutched her rosary, whispering prayers through tears. Raphael and Alina stepped aside near the huppah. He held her hands, voice soft. "Baby, we can't do this now, not like this." She nodded, mascara running. "I know. We'll do it again someday, just us." They decided to cancel the ceremony. 180 guests were quietly ushered out by 7:45 p.m. Many left their gifts and cards anyway, whispering "We love you" as they passed. Back at the scene, Internal Affairs placed Officer Vance on administrative leave immediately. They informed him criminal charges were likely. Because Raphael was a federal agent, the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division was notified within the hour. FBI agents, ironic but protocol, joined the investigation because of the badge-on-badge assault. This wasn't just a bad day for one officer. It was the culmination of 19 years of buried complaints. Let me tell you something important here. What happened to Raphael wasn't an isolated mistake. It was the predictable result of a system that protects officers like Vance for years. 9 complaints, 0 real consequences, until he put handcuffs on a decorated DEA agent in front of federal judges and prosecutors. If you believe no one should be above the law, not even the people who enforce it, type accountability in the comments. By 8:15 p.m., the first video leaked. One of the groomsmen uploaded a 45-second clip to a private law enforcement group chat. By 8:30 p.m., it hit a Chicago-based police accountability Facebook page. By 9 o'clock p.m., local news scanners picked it up. The story was just beginning to explode. But Raphael, standing in the parking lot in his ruined tuxedo, holding Alina's hand, already knew this fight was far from over. He was going to make sure Officer Vance and the entire department faced the consequences he had helped put away so many others for. If stories about real justice being served matter to you, hit subscribe. You're not going to want to miss what happens next. By 8 o'clock p.m. that Saturday, the first video was posted. Groomsman Luis Navarro uploaded a 1-minute clip to his personal X account, tagging number police abuse and number DEA wedding. It showed Vance cuffing Raphael with clear audio of the agent identifying himself. By 8:30 p.m., it had 12,000 views and 1,200 retweets. Local Chicago Reddit threads picked it up, r/Chicago and r/bad cops exploded with shares. By 9:15 p.m., the video hit TikTok. A wedding guest compiled a montage with dramatic music. The cuffing, Judge Ray's intervening, Vance's face draining of color. It racked up 85,000 views in the first hour. Comments poured in. He arrested a DEA agent at his own wedding. WTF, racial profiling much, permits were right there. This cop's done, federal hammer incoming. By 10 o'clock p.m., Instagram Reels joined the frenzy. Clips from 5 angles got 210,000 views combined. Hashtags like number wedding arrest and number bad cop busted trended locally. One reel with Alina's tearful reaction hit 150,000 views alone. Midnight, the story went national. CNN's breaking news ticker: DEA agent handcuffed at his wedding over noise complaint. MSNBC ran a segment with the video. Fox News followed. Total views across platforms: 1.8 million, shares 95,000. Sunday morning, June 26, 2022, YouTube news channels uploaded full breakdowns. One from a civil rights creator got 420,000 views by noon. Comments: 9 complaints buried, systemic failure. He ignored permits, power trip gone wrong. By Sunday evening, international pickup. BBC News: U.S. cop detains federal agent at wedding. Al Jazeera highlighted the racial angle. Views surged to 4.5 million total. TikTok compilations: 2.1 million. X threads: 320,000 engagements. Monday, June 27, major outlets dove in. Chicago Tribune front page: wedding nightmare, DEA agent cuffed, cops suspended. New York Times op-ed: when badges protect the wrong people. Washington Post podcast episode: total views 9.7 million. Comment sections raged: end qualified immunity now. How many more before reform? Tuesday, peak virality. A viral X thread by a legal analyst dissected Vance's history, 1.2 million impressions. TikTok duets, 3.4 million views. Instagram stories from influencers, 2.8 million. By week's end, 28 million views across X, 8.2 million. TikTok, 11.4 million. Instagram, 4.9 million. YouTube, 3.5 million. Shares, 1.1 million. The Naperville PD's statement: we are investigating the incident, but the damage was done. Public outrage demanded action. Share this story if you think everyone needs to see how one bad decision goes viral. Let me know in the comments how you first heard about cases like this. 3 days after the wedding, Tuesday, June 28, 2022, federal investigators descended on Naperville PD headquarters. DOJ Civil Rights Division agents, backed by FBI and DEA OPR, executed search warrants. They seized Vance's personnel file, bodycam logs, complaint records, and dispatch tapes. What they found was damning. The 9 complaints, all dismissed without interviews or evidence review. Patterns emerged: Vance targeted minorities in 7/9 cases, excessive force in 5, intimidation in 4. Investigators interviewed 42 witnesses from the wedding. Statements matched: he refused permits, laughed at DEA agent. Hours of video, 4.5 total from phones and venue cams. Forensics confirmed no edits. They dug department-wide. 14 officers had similar patterns, multiple complaints, no discipline. The IA unit, led by Vance's former sergeant, conflict of interest. Vance was charged Thursday, June 30. False imprisonment, 720 ILCS 5/10-3. Official misconduct, 720 ILCS 5/33-3. Civil rights deprivation, 18 U.S.C. Section 242. Bond, $150,000. The probe widened. By July 15, subpoenas hit 11 supervisors. Emails showed complaints handled quietly to avoid lawsuits. Have you ever seen a department cover for bad cops like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The fallout hit Naperville like a freight train. By July 5, 2022, 10 days after the wedding, Officer Travis Vance was officially terminated. The Naperville Police Department released a terse statement. Following a thorough review, Officer Vance has been relieved of duty. Criminal proceedings are ongoing. No pension buyout, no early retirement package, just gone. But it didn't stop with one badge. The DOJ Civil Rights Division, working with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Illinois, expanded the probe. They subpoenaed the entire complaint database from 2010-2022. What emerged was a pattern far bigger than anyone expected. 14 officers, 14 had 3 or more sustained or unresolved complaints involving excessive force, racial bias, or intimidation. 8 of them had Vance-level histories. Complaints buried, investigations closed without interviews, supervisors signing off on unfounded findings despite video or witness statements. By mid-July, 3 more officers were placed on paid administrative leave pending review. 2 sergeants who had repeatedly dismissed Vance's complaints were reassigned to desk duty. The Internal Affairs lieutenant who oversaw most of the buried files was forced into early retirement with a quiet buyout, $180,000 to avoid public scandal. Rafael Cortez filed his federal civil rights lawsuit on July 18, 2022. The complaint named Vance individually, the city of Naperville, the police department, and 4 supervisors for deliberate indifference and failure to train/supervise. Damages sought $17.4 million, breakdown of the claim. $4.2 million for violation of Fourth Amendment rights, unlawful seizure. $5.8 million for emotional distress and humiliation, arrested in wedding attire in front of family colleagues. Judges, $3.1 million for destruction of wedding day, canceled ceremony, lost deposits. Psychological impact, $2.9 million for civil rights conspiracy under Section 1983 and Section 1985, $1.4 million in punitive damages against Vance. Personally, discovery was brutal for the city. Depositions of wedding guests, federal judges, DEA supervisors, prosecutors were devastating. Judge Marisol Reyes testified for 4 hours. I watched a decorated federal agent identify himself clearly. The officer laughed and proceeded, "This was not a mistake, it was willful." Supervisory Agent Carla Ortiz described Rafael's career. "He's risked his life undercover for years. To treat him like a common suspect on his wedding day is unconscionable." Even Alina Morales took the stand later. "I saw my future husband in cuffs 10 minutes before our vows. My mother was crying. Our daughters were asking why daddy was in trouble. That image will never leave me." The city tried to settle early, offering $3.2 million in September 2022. Rafael's attorneys rejected it outright. "Not even close," they said. Trial began in federal court in Chicago on March 6, 2023. Jury selection took 3 days. Opening statements were electric. Prosecutors played the 5 phone videos side by side. Slow motion of the cuffs clicking. Audio of Rafael saying, "I am Special Agent Rafael Cortez, DEA twice." Vance's smirk, the crowd's gasps. Expert witnesses testified. Use of force trainer called it grossly excessive and unnecessary. Event permitting specialist confirmed every document was valid. Psychologist explained the trauma of public humiliation on a milestone day. Vance took the stand. His defense, "I believe the music was excessive. He resisted my order. Cross-examination destroyed him." Q, "Did you review the permits?" A, "I didn't have time." Q, "You were told he was DEA. Did you believe him?" "I thought he was lying." Q, 9 prior complaints, all dismissed. Coincidence? A, "I don't know about that." The jury deliberated for 7 hours. Verdict, Vance guilty on all criminal counts. Sentenced to 42 months federal prison, served starting June 2023. Lifetime ban from law enforcement, $75,000 fine. Civil jury. Full $17.4 million awarded to Rafael and Alina. City appealed, lost in the 7th Circuit, paid out December 2023. Consequences rippled wider. Naperville PD was placed under a DOJ consent decree, independent monitor, mandatory bodycam audits, civilian oversight board with subpoena power. IA unit disbanded and rebuilt with 60% civilian staff. De-escalation and bias training tripled. All officers with 3+ complaints reviewed retroactively, 4 more forced resignations by spring 2024. Rafael and Alina remarried privately in October 2022. Small beach ceremony in Puerto Rico, just family. No big pavilion, no string trio, but real vows, real peace. Rafael later said in an interview, "I've put away traffickers who ruined lives, but nothing prepared me for being the victim. If it can happen to me with judges watching, what happens to people without cameras, without badges, without lawyers?" Before I continue, let me ask you, Do we need civilian oversight in every police department before these patterns stop? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The story wasn't over. National attention turned to the bigger issue. On December 15, 2023, 6 months after Vance's sentencing and the civil payout, Rafael Cortez and Alina Morales held a joint press conference at the Dirksen Federal Building in downtown Chicago. Flanked by their attorneys, DEA supervisors, and representatives from the ACLU and NAACP Legal Defense Fund, they faced a packed room of reporters from CNN, NBC Chicago, the Associated Press, and more. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust forward, the backdrop read, "Accountability starts here." Rafael stepped to the podium first. His voice was measured, carrying the weight of his undercover years but laced with raw emotion. For 19 years, Officer Travis Vance operated with impunity. 9 complaints, 0 real investigations. He targeted communities of color, abused his power, and on June 25, 2022, he brought that toxicity to my wedding day. He paused, glancing at Alina, who nodded supportively. I was in my tuxedo, cufflinks from my late father. My daughters were flower girls. Alina was radiant in her gown. 10 minutes from Vows. Vance ignored permits. He laughed when I said I was DEA. He cuffed me in front of 180 guests, judges, prosecutors, agents who fight alongside me daily. Alina took over, her forensic accountant precision shining through. I watched helpless as my husband was humiliated. My mother collapsed in tears, our dream shattered, but we had resources, videos, witnesses, connections most don't. If this happens to a federal agent with judges present, imagine the everyday person, a single mom, an immigrant, a kid on the street. Rafael continued. This wasn't random, it was systemic. Naperville PD buried complaints to protect their own. DOJ found 14 officers with similar patterns. We sued not for money, but for change. The $17.4 million verdict funds reforms, civilian oversight, mandatory audits, bias training, but it can't restore our wedding joy, a reporter asked. Agent Cortez, as a law enforcement officer yourself, how has this changed your view? Rafael leaned in. I've risked my life dismantling cartels. I respect good cops, their family, but badges aren't shields for abuse. This exposed the thin blue line as a wall blocking justice. Alina added, we need national standards, body cams always on, independent IA units, end qualified immunity for repeat offenders, our case proves. Document everything, your phone is your power. Rafael shared a personal note. My parents fled Puerto Rico for a better life. I joined DEA to protect communities. Vance's actions reminded me why reform matters. We were married quietly, but that first day was stolen. If our story saves one family from this nightmare, it's worth it. Another question, what message to police departments? Rafael, train for de-escalation. Investigate complaints seriously. Diversity isn't token, listen to marginalized voices. One ego cost Naperville millions and 14 careers, learn from it. Alina, to victims, you're not alone. File complaints, seek legal aid. Organizations like ACLU stand ready. Silence enables abuse. Rafael closed strong. Justice isn't revenge, it's prevention. We fought so others don't have to. Hold power accountable always. The room erupted in applause. Clips from the conference went viral that afternoon, adding another 2.8 million views to the saga. Rafael and Alina became advocates, speaking at conferences on police reform. If stories like this inspire you to demand change, hit subscribe and share widely. This case didn't just shake Naperville. It exposed a national epidemic of unchecked police power, buried complaints, and systemic failures that cost lives, trust, and billions in taxpayer dollars. Let's dive into the hard numbers. Statistics from credible sources like the DOJ, FBI Uniform Crime Reports, ACLU studies, and independent watchdogs like Mapping Police Violence, and the Cato Institute's National Police Misconduct Reporting Project. These aren't opinions, they're documented patterns spanning 2014 to 2024. First, complaint dismissal rates. Across the U.S., 74% of police misconduct complaints are dismissed without any investigation, according to a 2023 DOJ report on 85 major departments. In Chicago alone, from 2018-2023, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability found that 81% of excessive force allegations against officers were ruled unfounded or not sustained, even when video evidence existed. Second, repeat offenders. A 2022 study by the Invisible Institute analyzed over 200,000 complaints in Chicago PD from 2000-2020. It revealed that just 5% of officers accounted for 38% of all complaints. Nationally, officers with 10 or more complaints are fired in only 12% of cases, per a 2021 Brennan Center analysis. In Vance's case, 9 complaints over 19 years, no action until he targeted a federal agent. Third, racial disparities. Black Americans are 2.6 times more likely to experience police use of force than whites, per 2023 CDC data on injury hospitalizations. Latinos face 1.8 times the risk. A 2024 Mapping Police Violence report showed that in Illinois, Unarmed black suspects were killed by police at a rate 4.2 times higher than whites between 2013-2023. Vance's history: 7 of 9 complaints involved people of color. Fourth, cost to taxpayers. From 2015-2023, U.S. cities paid out $3.2 billion in police misconduct settlements, according to a Washington Post database. Chicago alone shelled out $528 million in that period for wrongful arrests, excessive force, and cover-ups. New York, $1.1 billion. Los Angeles, $478 million. These payouts come from public funds, not officer pockets. Fifth, internal affairs failures. A 2022 GAO audit of 50 departments found that 62% of IA units lacked independent oversight, leading to conflict of interest in 89% of dismissed cases. In Naperville's probe, 14 officers had buried complaints, mirroring national trends where supervisors approved 76% of unfounded rulings without external review. Sixth, viral accountability. From 2020-2024, bodycam and bystander videos led to charges in 28% more misconduct cases, per a Vera Institute study. But only 41% of departments mandate cams always on. Vance's was off during the arrest. Seventh, federal interventions. DOJ consent decrees like Naperville's were imposed on 22 departments from 2014-2023 for patterns of abuse. Outcomes: 58% reduction in force complaints, but only 19% of decrees include civilian boards. Eighth, wrongful arrests. Annually, 1.2 million people face misdemeanor arrests without probable cause, per 2023 Bureau of Justice Statistics. At events like weddings or funerals, 14% of disruptions involve unverified complaints, leading to 92 lawsuits yearly. Ninth, qualified immunity blocks. From 2017-2023, 82% of civil rights suits against officers were dismissed under qualified immunity, shielding them from accountability, according to a Reuters investigation. 10th, mental health toll. Victims of wrongful arrests report PTSD rates 3.4 times higher than average, per a 2024 APA study. For minorities, it's 4.7 times, echoing Raphael's therapy sessions post-incident. 11th, training gaps. Only 37% of departments require annual de-escalation training, per a 2021 PERF survey. Bias training, just 29%, despite 68% of officers admitting implicit bias in a 2022 Pew poll. 12th, officer turnover. Post-Minis 2020, 21% of officers resigned amid scrutiny, but bad apples often rehired elsewhere. Wandering officers account for 12% of misconduct, per a 2023 Yale study. 13th, public trust erosion. Gallup polls from 2014-2024 show confidence in police dropped from 52% to 43%, lowest among Black Americans at 19%. 14th, reform progress. States like Colorado ended qualified immunity in 2020, leading to 31% more successful suits. But nationally, only 8 states have similar laws as of 2024. 15th, deadly force stats. 1,176 people killed by police in 2023 alone, 98% involved officers with prior complaints, per Washington Post tracking. 16th, event-specific abuses. From 2018-2023, 48 reports of police disrupting permitted gatherings, weddings, protests, cultural events, with 62% citing noise as pretext, per ACLU data. 17th, federal agent incidents. Rare but rising, 27 cases of local cops detaining feds from 2015-2023, per DOJ OIG, often escalating to civil rights probes. 18th, video impact. Bystander footage solved 47% of misconduct cases in 2022-2024, up from 22% Preminis 2020. 19th, economic ripple. Misconduct costs add $1.8 billion yearly in lost productivity from traumatized communities, per a 2023 Brookings estimate. 20th, youth exposure. 1 in 5 Black teens witness police abuse by age 18, per a 2024 Urban Institute study, perpetuating cycles of distrust. These stats paint a clear picture. Raphael's story is one thread in a massive web of failure. Change happens when we demand it. Comment below if you think national reforms are overdue. So here we are at the end of Rafael Cortez's story, a tale that started with a simple noise complaint and ended with a $17.4 million verdict, a consent decree, and 14 officers facing consequences. But stories like this don't just end. They echo. They force us to confront uncomfortable truths about power, accountability, and the systems we've built to protect us, or sometimes to protect the wrong people. So let me ask you this. If a decorated DEA agent, with federal judges, prosecutors, and supervisors as witnesses, can be handcuffed on his wedding day over a bogus complaint, what chance does the average person have? The single parent pulled over for a broken taillight, The immigrant question without cause, the black teenager walking home after dark. Do their complaints get buried too, just like Vance's 9 did for 19 years? And here's a harder one. How many more weddings, funerals, quinceañeras, or block parties need to be ruined before we demand real change? How many more billions in taxpayer settlements, $3.2 billion from 2015-2023 alone, before departments stop shielding repeat offenders? If 74% of complaints nationwide are dismissed without investigation, are we really surprised when officers like Vance think they're untouchable? What if the next victim doesn't have 5 phone videos, 180 witnesses, or a DOJ probe? What if it's your family, your child? We can't wait for the next viral nightmare. We need action now. End qualified immunity for proven patterns of abuse. 82% of suits are blocked by it. Mandate civilian oversight in every department. Only 38% have it, and look what happened without it in Naperville. Require body cams always on with penalties for malfunctions. 41% compliance is a joke. Triple de-escalation and bias training. Only 37% do it annually, despite 68% of officers admitting implicit biases. Push for federal standards. Independent IA units, retroactive complaint reviews, bans on wandering officers rehired elsewhere. Support bills like Colorado's that ended immunity. 31% more successful suits followed. Donate to ACLU, NAACP Legal Defense Fund, or local watchdogs. File complaints if you see abuse. Record interactions safely. Vote for reform-minded leaders. Because if we don't address the culture that let Vance thrive, if we don't investigate before another $17 million verdict, another 42-month sentence, another shattered dream, then we're complicit. We're waiting for the next Officer Vance, the next Rafael Cortez, the next preventable tragedy. Type justice in the comments if you believe it's time to end the protection racket for bad cops. Share this story if you think millions more need to hear it. Comment below if qualified immunity should be abolished nationwide. If these exposes matter to you, hit subscribe. We'll keep uncovering the patterns, demanding transparency, fighting for real accountability. This isn't just about one ruined wedding in Naperville. It's about a broken system that lets ego destroy lives. The question isn't if it'll happen again. It's what you're going to do to stop it. See you in the next one.